on your end. It's on the Facebook group.
Well, we don't like that group anyway. Hey, man, jumping on a call with Laban and Evans. This is like super bald head power right here. That might
What
be
is
the
up,
first and
Robert?
last time I ever say that.
It is a room full of superpower, though, right?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Laban did write the book Bet on You and is the host of Become Your Own Superhero. So there we go.
Yeah, well, his superpower is in attracting superpowers. So I love that about Laban because he pulled me into his world, and now all these super kinds of crazy things are happening in my world. So, and Evans, of course, is helping us, create the right stories and tell the right stories to attract the right people to make the right sales. Like that's what this is all about, right?
Absolutely. Well, we're excited today. Thank you for having us on, Robert, so we could come in here and share a little bit because as we're on this. I know you have an amazing podcast. A lot of Laban has a podcast. My background's in podcasting, and one of the biggest mistakes that I see is people waste huge opportunities to grow their business through podcasting. And we wanted to just talk a little bit about that today. And Laban offers, he opens the doors up for people to get on these shows with huge audiences, right? Skipping the line, not paying the fee. And then if you get that kind of opportunity and you don't have a system in place to capture a ton of leads and quickly turn those into sales, you're missing a huge opportunity. And that's why we wanted to jump on and just share a little bit about that today, Robert, and something special we have coming up next week. We're a week away. So I'm excited.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to share with my audience and add some wisdom into this. This podcasting space has been an interesting, like, for me, wanting to make a community, wanting to create community, wanting to create some interaction has been a real challenge, right? I can attract fantastic guests, and I've had some incredible connections and great conversations on the show. But taking it to that next level where there's interaction with the people that are listening, where we're creating a community with the audience and creating opportunity for conversations beyond just me and the heads, right? Just the two talking heads on the show. That's been a roadblock for me. And then, of course, for me, I haven't converted a lot of my audience into clients. So I've done really well on the connection side, but I've struggled a bit on the what's the real value in my podcast other than having a blast and having fun and meeting people, which is fantastic in and of itself, but it's still not making me any money. So how am I going to make some money from this podcast and from this, the people that are listening? And not because I want to make money from my audience, but I want to add value, right? I want to get the word out about what I'm offering. And I think, I believe what I have is valuable and the audience can benefit from using it. So.
Well, maybe would you allow me to answer this one, Evans? There's something that happened yesterday that I wanted to share with you all. And my head's still spinning from it. I haven't had a chance to talk to Evans or Rob about this yet. But I, very, very, very quick condensed overview, because we're on a time constraint here today. This is going to be short and sweet. I reached out to a gentleman who has a huge show, one that I just interviewed on recently. It hasn't been released yet. And I sent him a message asking whether he would like Bobby Kennedy Jr. on the show. Now, this isn't a political debate. He's always asked me about if I'm connected to people that are going to be great guests and create lots of conversation pieces and different dialogues, that kind of thing. Now, I'm not, first things first, I'm not connected to Bobby Kennedy Jr. yet, but he said immediately, yes, that'd be amazing. And I went into creation mode, right? Because I was like, oh, well, I have to see if I can deliver on this now. So I jumped on LinkedIn and I started searching people that were connected to Bobby Kennedy so that I could find ways to connect with them and then reach out to him through that medium, which is something that we'll talk about in this event and how to reach out and connect with these people, which is just an absolute superpower, because it doesn't involve, in terms of monetization, it doesn't involve sponsorship or advertising, that type of thing as well. You don't even need a very big audience, which I don't have for a number of reasons, right? Which we can talk about later. But I saw this lady and I was like, that name's familiar. And I got her phone number and I was saving it in my phone. It was already saved. And I was like, that's interesting. So I went through my emails, and in January of this year, a mutual friend of mine had introduced me to this amazing woman who's directly connected to Bobby Kennedy. And we'd had an email exchange, and I'd sent the last email, and I hadn't heard anything back from her. And this kind of thing happens from time to time, and there's zero judgment. But I had her number, and I called her up, and we started chatting, and I told her my idea, and she was grateful to hear from me and thanked me for following up, which is another good point to remember as well. Sometimes it just slips people's mind. And then in the space of the 45-minute phone call that we had, she had invited me on her huge podcast. She had introduced me to Bobby Kennedy's people, and we're driving down to New Jersey on Monday for her to be a guest on my podcast, right? This is someone who has a very large audience, is very well connected to lots of incredible people in the space of about 45 minutes, all through this act of service. So when we talk about monetization, and we talk about it at this amazing challenge event we're doing, I want people to get out of their mind, at least initially, sponsorship and advertising. Because until you get really big, I mean, you can make some money, but it's not really going to be the thing that's going to put food on the table. So I just wanted to share that story real quick with you guys.
Yeah, I love it. Let me point out something here, right? Because what you didn't mention is that you did mention the large audience, and this is the thing that everybody's looking for right now. If you look in the market, the biggest names out there are actually buying audiences. They're going out, they're buying Facebook groups, they're buying podcasts. We had our podcast purchase back previously because of the audience and the list, which is why I'm excited about the event we're doing next Thursday to share this. But what Laban also touched on is that he did this organically by serving, by reaching out. He didn't pay a podcast agency $50,000 to book him on these shows. He's not paying anybody else. He's not paying booking fee to get on this show, which most people end up having to do. Even for smaller shows, people are charging booking fees. So he's taking an opportunity, and this is what I want to share with everybody. They often forget that the audience is an asset. And if you can go borrow somebody else's audience and that asset, it's huge for you, right? And this has given Laban a huge opportunity, not only to make connections and to serve, but he's been able to get in front of a huge audience that he didn't have to spend years and years and years or a lot of money to try to create. And that's the first step in what we're actually talking about next week, right, Laban? It's like the main thing is if you're going to have a big audience, you certainly need to know how to take the next step, which is how do I get them to come into my world right now? I want them over here. I don't want them staying over there after I go. And I think that's the biggest mistake most podcasters make, is they miss that opportunity to bring the right ones, to have the right ones to swim towards them. Right. And they miss out on that a lot.
Well, I completely forgot to mention this part as well. And thankfully I didn't say the person's name so I can share this. On the phone call, when I was talking to the guy that I said, hey, do you want Bobby Kennedy on your show? He was telling me yesterday, this is hand on heart, he has just been offered 8 figures for his show, right? Mm. So these things aren't even podcasts anymore. These are media companies that people are acquiring, right? When you think about it, like a lot of these podcasts now have much larger viewerships and listenerships than a lot of the mainstream Fox and CNN, MSNBC, like these mainstream things that have been the staple of advertising and platforms forever and ever and ever. And it just shows you the trajectory and the shift in the way that people want to consume their content. And if you start seeing your show as a media company, it starts to open things up, because that's what's happening now, right? And there's this cross-pollination, and because of, and I'll talk about this real quick, Evans and Rob, the reason that my podcast isn't as big as some of these other ones, it hasn't been around that long. It's been 3 years, and some of these other shows have been going for a decade or more, but also because of a decision to share my truth, the numbers haven't been as high because of some of the guests that I've chosen to have, and their names are linked to shadow banning and deboosting of stuff. This is not conspiracy theory. This has been verified by social media experts. So I had to figure out a better way to attract people to my own show. And it ain't through me doing regular posting and stuff, right? That's a very small part of it. If I go on a podcast with a 3 or 4 million audience listener base, and 1% of them start following me on my YouTube channel, my Spotify account, like all of a sudden I got a podcast that's in the top 0.1% of downloads globally, right? So that's the kind of power that you can exude with your media platform.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd love to share too, the thing that we're doing next week, Robert, which we'd love to have you come as well. Obviously you're invited, is for people who have podcasts, but also just for entrepreneurs, business owners, experts who are looking to get on podcasts, right? To not miss the opportunity. I don't even know the numbers, but how many people I've spoken to that either go on podcasts or have a podcast, I would say 90% of them miss a huge opportunity. And that opportunity is to build their list off of that podcast. And that's the second part of what we want to talk about, because like Laban's got the superpower of saving you $30,000 to get you in front of huge audiences. But what I've discovered is that 90%, if not more, miss that next opportunity because they don't follow a simple, and it really is simple, something that we uncovered in our own business that got us a 78.6% opt-in rate, right? That's 8 out of 10 people were saying yes and getting on our list. And then out of that 78.6%, which I remember that number by heart just because it was so crazy, the next big thing was 80% of our highest value buyers came from that list. And guess why we were able to sell the podcast, right? My partner was able to sell this podcast that we had created together because not just the audience numbers, which were huge, but the list, because the money truly is in the list. And also, once you get people on your list, you are no longer relying on that podcast that you guested on, even though it's going to be out there evergreen, sending people to you to remind you. Right now you're holding attention, not just attracting attention, but holding it. And now you can reach out to them, build the relationship. And that's what I want people to start thinking of. And we talk about this in next week when we do Listeners to Leads Live, is that this is a very transformational process versus a transactional process. Right? I mean, we were actually the business that I talk about when we discovered this, Robert and Laban. I know y'all have both heard this story probably a million times, but we were struggling. We weren't getting sales. We had an audience of like 75,000 monthly listeners, and we were probably getting like 2 email addresses a week. It was horrible because we were doing what everybody else was doing. We were doing what the experts said to do. We were putting together these like really bad lead magnets, right? And we threw all that out the window. We didn't even think of it as a lead magnet anymore. We thought of it as a relationship building tool. And we started following a simple process using specific levers that we could do over and over on our own podcast and guesting on other shows like what Laban is talking about, and get people to just raise their hands and like quickly get on our list. And then when they got on our list, they opened our emails at almost a 50% open rate because we had a process in place that kept the relationship going. It was value driven, right? And then from that point, they would just rush to us to buy our stuff. We didn't even have to like constantly ask them for the sale. A lot of them were just saying, hey, I'm ready to buy now. You've shown me that you can help me. I trust you. And now over time, I've actually taken what we learned then and basically put it on steroids. And now it's automated to where once people come over, get in your world, they go through a process that you hold their attention. They build a deep human emotional connection with you. They don't go running off to all the other shiny objects that are calling them. And the process is so simple that when they get through it, you're actually creating your dream client. You're not just hoping that they're going to buy from you. You're going to know now that they're ready to buy from you and that they're the right person to buy from you. And they're going to be able to be successful with you, which all of that leads to the next step, which is relationships with your clients, referrals from your clients, and revenue partners from your clients. So it's just a simple system that it really is only a couple of tweaks, which we're excited to share next week, right? So that's all it is. You don't have to go build some crazy thing, Robert. It's just a couple of little levers that you pull and do over and over again, and it'll change everything.
Can I correct one thing you mentioned in there?
What's that?
You said creating dream clients, but really you're attracting your dream clients so that the people that are listening are the people that are supposed to hear what you have to say. And then the transformation that you're offering, these are the people that are looking for that transformation. And so they're raising their hand and saying, "Ooh, that's me. You're looking for me." And then in the process, they're recognizing that transformation you're offering. That's what I need. Hey, me. Right. And so you're not actually making these people up out of nothing. And I love that about what you're offering, because so many times all of us have used Facebook ads. All of us have created a silly funnel, and we've piped all these people into it. And I built a list. My first email list, I built up to 1,000 people really fast. It was awesome. Like, woo, I'm so excited. And not a single one of them people ever bought from me. And so what you're talking about is creating a list of people who have already said, "I like what you're talking about." And then you're taking that list to the next level, and you're saying, "Here's the transformation that we offer." And they're able to say again, "Oh, that's me. That's what I want." Right. And so now they're saying yes. They're saying yes to your list. They're saying yes to your transformation. And so obviously when you put an offer before these people, they're begging to buy it.
Well,
like,
and here's
Evans,
the thing.
Give me a place to put my credit card.
Yeah, and that's true. But Robert, I will say, no, you are creating your dream clients, because we're not just offering them a transformation. The process that we take them through actually gives them a transformation when they go through it. So they move from listener, right? Someone who you attract through your show, you build the trust through your podcast, you build the trust through the way you speak when you go on podcasts, like what Laban's sharing. And then when they make the next step, you give them the opportunity to come over and get on your list through this process that we've developed through this irresistible opt-in offer framework. They actually come through that. And as they go through it, because it's multi-stepped, it's not just hey, here's this PDF download, good luck, see you later. It's actually putting them through a multi-stepped lead generation transformational process that by the time they get to the end of it, you've now shifted beliefs that they know that they can do the thing that you have to offer. That's why they raise their hand and want it. So in essence, you take them from attracting them into your world, growing their trust, and then creating a dream client through the process that we teach on the back end. That's the beautiful thing about it. And it automates the process, and it gives you really, really high quality clients and high quality people that you love to work with. Right. And you're 100% true, because they don't need it. There's no hard sell at the end anymore. It's more of an invitation. And a lot of times they're basically, like you said, knocking down the door going, "Here's my credit card." And with what Laban shares, if you think about that, think about how you grow your business that way, that's just authentic, that's automated, that has so many people that have already gotten to know you through a podcast or through your interviews on other shows. And now Laban's giving you a way to get in front of these huge audiences where before this, you had to have this special key. It was almost like, this like secret key that you had, or a secret handshake or knock that you had to use to get on these shows, or you had to pay big bucks. But Laban's developed his superpower is showing you that path for how he does it and doesn't have to pay the big fee. So now in essence, you've created this amazing, huge front end audience that comes over, and you've created a lead and sales machine that's super high profits because it's organic and you're not having to spend a lot of money, and it's evergreen because these interviews live out there forever, just driving people into your business. So to me, it baffles me that so many people have missed this opportunity so far. But for the people that come next Thursday, they're going to get the opportunity to jump on it and grow their businesses fast.
Well, I would say that it's not their fault, but it is their responsibility, right? And going back to your comment, Rob, I see where you're coming from that perspective, and I agree with both points, because with the transformation and all of a sudden people seeing the possibility, then I suppose, whether they're attracted or created, the net result for them is that they are in this position in a relatively short period of time. And what I would say about how a lot of these ideas came about was purely organic, because when I created the podcast, it was in the midst of the lockdowns in 2020. And there was no financial resources. So I had to become incredibly resourceful in order to bring on these people onto the show, and then all the relationships, the know, like, and trust that followed from there. I had to act in a way that got the best outcome, the win-win-win. And so it turns out that these are principles that exist in the universe that I accidentally sort of stumbled across because I was living in integrity. I never tried to buy listeners or followers. And I'm not judging you if you've done that, if you're trying to make your business work. There's no judgment here. But when you operate in integrity and in alignment with your purpose on this planet, the doors just open up. And what we want to do is we want to show you which doors to knock on, and to compress the time that you'll spend to get to the destination that you know that you want to be at. And I'm not a big deal, right? This isn't self-deprecating talk, which I don't use, but I'm not a famous person with a big platform. I have 1,300 people on YouTube. I've had about 60,000 downloads on my podcast in total with 200 episodes, it sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot. And what I'm able to pull off at the moment is someone who has a platform of millions. And it's the association to these people in my network that's automatically giving me borrowed ethos and credibility that's part of that process where I'm being invited on to share my message with the world. So hopefully that makes sense. I haven't filtered anything, but I just wanted to get that off my chest.
I love it. No, this is and Robert, one thing too is, like, I know I want us to stop as an industry, like, people, I hear this all the time, like monetizing podcasts. It's like, we're not here to teach you to monetize a podcast. Laban talked about that earlier, right? If you want to go out there, I've seen people argue and like get all upset about missing out on their $1.50 that they were supposed to get from Anchor because of their sponsorship. It's like, who wants $1.50, right? You sponsor yourself, right? You're monetizing the audience. You're not monetizing the podcast, but we're also doing it in a way that's relationship building, treating people like real humans, right? Not just numbers. When you go on a show that has, like, we used to have, I had a discussion with a fella yesterday and we were talking about this, and he was asking me about how we had 150,000 monthly listeners, but it never seemed to go down, right? We never like had plummets. We either went up or we stayed in that 150,000 range average, right? But we didn't lose a lot of listeners. It's because when you do this the right way and you're your authentic self, much like what you've done, Robert, with your show and the relationships you've built and the relationship with your audience, is you treat people like people, right? You acknowledge them. And if you build a list, you can remind them and hold that attention, because right now attention is like one of the most valuable assets out there. And here's the thing I'll share, but this is something that I've been reading 10X is Better Than 2X by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And he talks about this, and I'm not sure if this was his principle or it was somebody else's. So I want to give the right attribution. So we'll start with the book. But the way I see so many people treating attention right now is that, they focus on the sort of cheap attention, right? The social media posts, the jumping on TikTok to do something. And I'm not saying any of these are bad or that they're wrong, but when you focus on fishing in the shallow waters, you catch minnows, right? When you go deeper, which podcasting as a guest or your own show gives you the opportunity to go deeper with attention. You hold the attention. It's a much more valuable attention asset. And then when you take that and you pair it with a system to get, and I'm not promising anybody's going to get 8 out of 10 opt-ins like we were getting 78.6%, because it's always different when you guest on somebody else's show. But I can share that some of the clients I've worked with have gotten like 46%, 50% plus, which is still above and beyond what the industry considers excellence, which is usually around 30-something%. So what I would share is that focusing on the deeper attention, right? Taking that and go into podcasts, start utilizing podcasts as a way to attract the right people. You'll attract higher quality clients. You'll attract higher quality audience members coming into your world, and it's evergreen. So it just sits out there and lives forever. And it gives you the opportunity to be your authentic self in a way that will bring the right people to you. So that's one thing that I think that a lot of people miss on, that I just wanted to bring up, is that it's really, so many people are competing for the minnows when you can be out there fishing for the big fish. I'd much rather go out and catch a grouper than eat a grouper than have to eat like 150 minnows to feel like I'm getting full.
And what I appreciate most about both what Laban's teaching, Evans, and what you're teaching is you are teaching about relationships, and you're authentic in your communication. You're authentic in wanting to serve, and you're authentic in wanting to have your audience and your leads and listeners experience transformation. And so ultimately you're offering a life change to the people that you're helping see the need for it. And so what I appreciate is that you're not focused on, some sales or manipulation tactic or some other, way to get these people in your world and just make a sale. And you're really about the transformation that you're helping people offer and helping people communicate better in podcast guesting, so that the audience hearing can understand the transformation that they're offering. And like you said, they can raise their hand and they can say, hey, that's me. That's what I'm looking for. And then you honor those people that are saying, hey, I'm looking for this transformation, by walking them through a journey of transformation and taking them where you promised to lead them. And so that's what I appreciate so much about your work, Evans. Laban, I appreciate that so much about the connections that you make. When you call somebody and you say, hey, can I help connect you to this person? You mean that in a legitimate, I want to serve you kind of way. And that's what's opened these doors, and that's what's created this authenticity. And I think that's what's created this opportunity for people to grow their podcast audiences, grow their lists, and which of course leads to better clients, because you've got a better list, you've got a better audience, and you're making a bigger impact. But it really does come down to serving other human beings and having meaningful conversations and meaningful relationships. And so I appreciate that about you guys. I know we're on a hard stop, so last words.
Well,
Laban, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'll just say, Rob, I really appreciate you saying that, dude. And it helps me in my momentum to know that I'm on the right path. And I know that I am on the right path because of the results that are getting and the fulfillment that I get from it. But it's really nice to hear it from you, and the work that you're doing, your incredible network of people that you've connected me with as well. So I don't want to make this like a pump each other's tires up, but it's true, and it's rare to find. So thank you for that. And Evans, I'll leave it with you to finish.
Yeah, well, thank you. And yeah, thanks to both of you guys. You know how much I love both of y'all and everything you're doing. So for everybody watching, Robert, can we just go ahead and invite them to come join us next week? Because
absolutely,
this is a free this is just a free training we're doing next week. Laban and I got together and we're like, how can we help serve the community and share some of these things that we've uncovered that have worked so well, right? From getting on some of the top shows without paying a booking fee of $30,000, $15,000, $5,000, whatever that is, not having to hire an expensive agency and still getting on these humongous shows, and then getting in front of that audience and being able to turn them into leads following a system that we developed with my own business and then have shared with many of our clients. It'll get you people just coming in droves, we'll say that, in droves, becoming listeners to leads, and then taking them through a specific process that helps create that transformation, gives them wins, gives them success, deepens the trust, and wants them to buy from you. So for us, that equated from basically going to $0 to $500,000 in 12 months. And it changed everything, right? All from this simple process that we're going to share next Thursday. And so we'd love people to come. It's free. They can, if they're listening, Robert, here's something they can do. They can text the word leads to 55444. They can text the word leads, LEADS, to 55444 to get their free ticket, or they can go to listenerstoleadslive.com and grab their spot there. Listenerstoleadslive.com and grab their spot there. So tickets are free. Show up. You'll come learn. We're going to do Q&A. It's going to be interactive. It's not a webinar. Laban and I are just opening up the Zoom. We're going to share from our hearts what we have to offer to everybody. And then we'll give everybody an opportunity. We are going to give people an opportunity if they want to take the next step to do something really cool that we're creating to get some big wins really quickly. We'll be talking about that at the event too. So just come. It's an hour and a half long. We added an extra 30 minutes just for Q&A so we can stick around as long as possible. And we know that everybody's time is valuable, and we promise, and I know Laban, I'll speak for both of us, we promise we'll over-deliver and give you so much value during this time. So please come join us. Please come join us. We look forward to it.
Yeah, listeners to leadslive.com. Sign up and we'll see you next Thursday. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a wonderful weekend. Appreciate you both.
Thank you, Robert. We always appreciate you, man.
Thank
you so much.
See you soon.